Can you hear me? I am not sure that I am really qualified to speak to you, my friends and my community, on Yom HaAtzmaut. I am not Israeli. I have never served in the Israeli army. I have been given this honor because my son Harry is currently serving in the IDF. Billy and I are not even the only parents in the community that have a son serving in the IDF. Our friend, the Sebas, have a son in the IDF. The Chamudot have not one, but 2 sons currently serving. I hope I can do justice to this occasion. I prepared a list of don'ts for you if you want to ensure that you are not one day standing in my shoes and that your son does not enlist in the Israeli army. Don't send him to Moshava. Don't send him to SAR. Don't decorate your sukkah or your parents' sukkah, in my case, with posters of chayalim davening by the kotel. Don't allow your brother and sister-in-law to make aliyah, taking their 5 children, his cousins and best friends, to Israel. Don't visit this brother and his family at least once a year, sometimes several times a year, every year since they made aliyah. And most importantly, don't raise your children with the notion that when they become 18, they are old enough to make their own decisions. Seriously though, Harry didn't make this decision when he turned 18, or even when he was studying in Israel the year after he graduated from SAR high school. This was something he was working toward all through high school. I'm not sure I remember a time when this wasn't the direction he was headed. Enlisting in the IDF was a goal of his since he was a young boy. Harry's Yom Giyus, or enlistment day, was in March 2015. I went to Israel for 2 weeks to move him out of his yeshiva in Otniel into an apartment in Givat Shmuel and to take him to the drop-off location for the enlistment. Yom Giyus is kind of like taking your kids to the drop-off for departure to sleepaway camp. Lots of kids milling about, some looking very cool and calm, some very excited, and some visibly nervous. Same for the parents, hovering over their kids. You are just waiting for the buses to show up and for your son to be called. After what feels like forever, the buses start to arrive, and your son is called with whatever group he is going with. He gets on the bus and drives away. Only this time, I don't have any friends working in the camp office or the MARP, infirmary in Moshava speak, who can keep an eye on my son and let me know how he's doing. There is no website where I can waste hours of my time trolling for pictures of him. And this is not 4 weeks or even 8 weeks. My son is making a 3-year commitment. I cried a lot over those 2 weeks. I think it was the hardest 2 weeks of my life. All the Israeli parents are congratulating me, telling me how proud I must be to have raised such a son, how brave he and I both are, how wonderful it is, etc. And all I am thinking is, what kind of mother am I? How can I let him do this? Is there something wrong with me? As a parent, you spend all your time and energy ensuring your child's happiness and safety. And here I am, letting him make this very dangerous decision. Was this my fault? Did I encourage him over the years? Did he feel like he had to do this? The truth is, when I was his age, I was so sure I was going to make Aliyah too. And this wasn't something I decided during my year in seminary after high school. I knew I wanted to live in Israel before I had ever been to Israel. It was confirmed when I went to Israel for the first time when I was 15 years old for the summer. I told my friends on the plane before we touched down. I declared to them, the way 15-year-olds do with such conviction, that I wanted to live in Israel. I was going to live in Israel. They were incredulous. Do you have relatives in Israel? Have you ever been there before? How could you possibly know that? But this was something I knew in the depths of my heart. Israel was my home, the home of the Jewish people. How can you not want to live there? What's wrong with my friends that they don't feel the same way? During my college years, I actually was part of a garin, which literally means seed. We were a group of Aliyah-minded college students who were all positive we were going to wind up in Israel. But all we ever really did when we got together was play guitar and sing Hebrew songs, and maybe some classic rock. I wonder why we never made it to Israel. I'm not in touch with most of these people anymore, though one of these remains one of my closest friends to this day. I'm not sure if any of us actually made Aliyah, though at least 2 of us, my very close friend and I, have children that have made Aliyah and have served or are serving in the IDF. When people ask me how I feel about my son making Aliyah and joining the army, I often answer, my son has the courage of my convictions. The truth is that if I'd had the courage to live out my dream, to pick myself up and move across the world away from family and friends, this grand gesture that my son had made, this huge decision, would not have been a choice at all, but rather the same obligation that every other 18-year-old boy in Israel has to do. I find comfort in that. Harry is in a unit called Orev, which means raven. It is a special forces unit within the Givati Brigade. This past Sunday was his graduation. He has completed 13 months of training. The fact that his training was so long actually helped me get through those first weeks and months of his enlistment. I kept asking him, when do you finish? I kept hoping it would be longer. I didn't want it to end. May 2016 seemed far enough away at the time, but the moment has arrived. He is now officially a soldier. The truth is, I am so completely proud of my son and so completely terrified. These feelings are not mutually exclusive and are not unique to me, I am sure. They are shared probably by every mother of a son or daughter who is serving in combat. There are actually times, very few, when I am relieved that he is doing this, learning skills that are unfortunately necessary in today's crazy world. As we all know, and as recent events in Europe and California, never mind the stabbings and terror attacks in Israel, have demonstrated, our enemies are out there. The world is dangerous. I pray to Hashem daily that he never has to use any of the skills he has spent the last 13 months learning, but I am glad he has learned them. But most of the time, I am just worried. On good days, I can shut it off, get distracted by work and friends and movies, but some days I can't, so I pretend as best as I can. This Shabbos, we will read Parshat Kedoshim. Kedoshim means holy. Hashem tells Moshe to gather Bnei Yisrael and tell them, Kedoshim tihiyu. You shall be holy because I am your God and I am holy. Then the Parsha lists the ways this can be accomplished. Honoring your parents, keeping Shabbos, leaving a corner of your field so that the poor can glean from it. The golden rule, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself, is from this Parsha. Don't steal, don't speak lashon hara, don't stand aside when your fellow's blood is shed. If we follow these laws, then we will be holy, and we will be worthy to dwell in Eretz Yisrael. While researching the Parsha, I came across the following on the internet about holiness. There are 3 elements to holiness: makom, place; adam, person; and zman, time. This is a quote. The end of Parshat Kedoshim states that Eretz Yisrael, the place, Bnei Yisrael, the person, and time in general are intended to reflect the integration of godliness into the daily lives of individuals and nations. To the extent that we realize our mission as the kingdom of priests and a holy nation will be the degree to which we retain the right to dwell in the land of Israel. Close quote. I think our son Harry has recognized this mission and the exceptional opportunity granted him, one that wouldn't have been possible just a few generations back. A coincidence of time and ability, a merging of opportunity and obligation, a blessing, a miracle really, that I believe so many of us take for granted. Israel's modern history is very short. No less than 68 years ago, we didn't have a nation to defend. And now we plan trips to Israel just like it's another destination. When times are good, both financially and situationally, how is the matzav? We go more. And when things are not so good, we go less or not at all. We are complacent. Parshat Kedoshim teaches us we can't be complacent. We must strive to do better, to be holy, to deserve the land we were given. We are a nation of Jews that strive to be holy. Sometimes, most of the time, we fall short. And sometimes, some of us rise to the occasion and do the right thing. I am blessed and privileged, thankful and terrified that our son Harry is one of those people. Chag Sameach.